All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So Susan, we've been talking to law firm owners and leaders across the nation. Now you're based out of Florida. You've got a family law practice. How have you been adapting to, like, basically since this whole coronavirus COVID-19 thing has started?
Well, we have gone remotely, just like everyone else has. We've left one receptionist on each side of my building. They're isolated from each other. It's kind of like a duplex. And they're manning the phones and transferring those calls to all of us on our cell phones on an app through our phone system. So we're functioning almost entirely the same, although there has been a few hiccups, but mostly it's working out exactly the same.
How was that? So when this was first coming to light, I mean, I guess what was what were the thoughts that you had at first? What was the decision making? Because I imagine, like, before you guys weren't remote and making that transition, what was that like?
Well, the first week I stayed home when I was fully remote because I started to come down with some sort of stuffy head sickness, and the timing was too suspicious for me. So I just felt like I needed to stay home. And I work remotely a lot anyhow. My people don't. They're always on scene. So the immediate thing was to let them stay, but to close it to the public, because we weren't sure exactly what we needed to do. But this week, on Friday of last week, I decided to go fully remote with the exception of the receptionist. But they know we have hard cords to take their phones home. They're the internet-based phones. So we'll still be able to do that. The decision to do it was because I don't want their children to become infected and spread that to other adults, because I know the children aren't necessarily being affected the way that we as older people are. So my decision in having them work from home was more for their own protection than as a business decision. And I've asked them not to take their children to daycare so that they're more safe that way. So I've asked everyone to be understanding with my staff.
What's been the impact, if you don't mind sharing, on the firm thus far? And, what are some of the things that you guys have been doing to adapt?
There's been a substantial financial impact for sure. The phone has not been ringing like it was. We track our leads, and most of our leads are still coming from Google. I've been heavy on Facebook. I took to Gary Vee's advice that he gave about being informative and not asking for anything back. I got an email from our American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers and those groups, and they sent a very informative article on co-parenting during the virus and how you're supposed to do the parenting exchanges and those type of things and work together. And I decided to share that, and that has been very successful as an information piece. It's been shared probably 150 times so far. It's getting a lot of traction, and we've posted things to let people know that we're still open, we're working remotely. I did this week advertise for free 30-minute consultations because everybody is starting to panic financially. They don't want to spend money. My husband asked me if that was a good decision when I should be making money and not, doing free consults. And that's a touchy subject with attorneys. They don't like to give advice for free. And my logic is, well, people don't think they have the money right now, but when they know they have the money, they'll have already gotten the advice. And that's my logic. Hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very good logic, and it's good, I think, to be in the conversation, especially right now. What about anything in the way of the team? How have they responded?
The team, they are phenomenal. I might cry if I talk about it, so I'm going to try not to be too specific. They have stepped it up, and I have been trying to find and really exploit the strengths of my team. And when I find that they're not working in a certain capacity, my main goal, because they've learned our culture and they fit with us as people, is to find out how to make it work. And I stumbled across something, and Audrey is aware of this. One has led to another, to a pair of a particular employee who apparently at their last job created workflows and micro tasks within systems, and I have redone everything. 2 weeks before this happened, my staff has grown so much that there's been so many hands in the pot. A client would call in and they'd tell one of us something, and then an hour or two later they'd call and the next person answering the phone had no idea what they were talking about. And so I decided to just abort every other communication platform that we have besides GChat and go straight to my case management software that does everything. It does our lead tracking. It does the client communications as well as the invoicing. But now that we have gone straight to that system and started doing the tasks, the accountability has gotten better. I know you know this already because I've heard it a few times, but I accidentally, it's divine intervention timing for me, just said, I don't care what you people want to do. It's not working. Your way is not working. We're doing it my way. And I went straight to tasks. Then by implementing the tasks, found out that this particular employee was like, oh, how about workflows? And I'm like, how about a workflow? That would be great. They've done 15 workflows so far. I asked for one workflow to be done at the end of the week because I had no idea how quickly they could get it done. And it was done within one day. So we've done 15. I just spoke to her before I spoke to you, and we talked about all the different workflows within it. We have more of the beginning workflow. I asked her to add a conclusion workflow, and they're working on the middle as we speak, but probably by the end of the week, every one of our systems will be automatized because the way they've set it up within our case management is the completion of one task triggers the next task. It assigns the task, it assigns the deadlines, and it's just going to keep it flowing all the way down, which is fantastic because right before this happened, we had so much momentum and traction that I blew my statistics out of the water financially for anything I've ever done. It's been since the Chris conference. This is my second, or how many have you done? I've been to everyone.
Done two. Third one's coming up in November, hopefully.
Coming up. My business, they don't teach this shit in law school, Michael. I've learned so much on how to run a business. I'm just running circles around people. But and one of the guys that I keep up with, I've started doing virtual coffee with some of my colleagues and some of my referral sources because we can't go have lunch like we did before or coffee. And I spoke to him today, and he was talking about his phone system and the app on his phone and how they've, they're not remote yet, but they're working towards it. And I'm like, yep, okay. Anyways, so they did the workflows, and I was already trying to hire. I had a new person hire right before this happened, and she was going to be higher paid than any member of my staff, including my associate. And within a week of working in my business, she said it was too hard, and she quit. And I was like, oh man, that was my plan. I don't have a backup plan. I didn't have a backup plan for that. And so then when this happened, I thought, wow, she unloaded herself at the very right minute that I don't have to pay her salary. And then now I don't think I'm going to need her. I don't think I need that extra person. I think by automating the things that we are, and I expect to be fully automated almost by the end of the week. We're working on the templates right now. We have probably half of all of my forms templated to merge like a DOS system in our case management. So I don't think I'll need that person. And I gave everyone raises and said, this is where you're going to prove your worth. Let's go. Let's do it. My associate, I found out she's got a skill that she's younger. I should have assumed. She graduated law school at 22. So she's always been a phenom, but she has made the ads for me that I put on Facebook. She's like, hey, I designed this ad. I sent it to you, the one with the mask. The face mask with coronavirus.
Yep.
She has that talent, and I'm learning all these talents from all of these employees that I just by giving them the freedom to try to work it out and come up with these ideas. They're blowing my mind. They really are.
I love it. I love that they're stepping up, and I also love that you've been so proactive. Like, I guess to ask a deeper question, because this is a time where a lot of firm owners are panicking, some are retreating. But what is driving you? I mean, essentially, what's getting you out of bed every morning to persist, even at a time where, let's say, cases are down, the phone might be ringing less. There's a lot of uncertainty.
I think my motivation to help people, obviously, is what everyone's going to say. I think that's what really motivates me. But I have been on a mission since I met you and became part of this process and this program to see what my potential is. And I'm not going to let 3 weeks of everybody not working take that away from me, because I was going, and I'm still going to do it. I'm just going to find a different way. And I always have. That's my determination is what makes me a good attorney. So
what would you say right now is the most challenging aspect? I mean, outside of the fact that, we're obviously all remote, and the other obvious thing that perhaps phones ringing less, but what aspects of running the firm right now is the most challenging?
I think right now the most challenging aspect is adapting, because I've been telling the girls, anticipating the next step. For example, I said to my girls, my team, right now, this is going to be the excuse for these people to act like assholes to each other. These parents, I do family law. Now's the time that they're going to start keeping their kids from each other. The most frustrating part is the courthouse is closed. We're only doing silly hearings via Zoom. We're not doing anything substantial. So the hardest part is that I feel like I can't help people right now because the system is broken as it stands right now. So I have to do the best to give the best advice. And we're trying to be proactive and say, for example, in Florida, Orange County, which is Orlando, just went to not a curfew, it's even more intense than that. We're 14 days quarantine, started at 11 p.m. last night, and it ends April 7th, I believe they said, whichever client told me last night. And so you can only go to the grocery store, work, or pharmacy, right? So I told my guy, I said, then call the sheriff's department and find out what they're going to do about child exchanges so you can make that extra effort. He did. We preemptively sent messages to our clients today. Hey, this happened in Orange County. If this happens in our county, you need to be thinking about what we're going to do and how you're going to do it. The responses I'm getting are mixed because most people are the selfish ones who say, oh, I'm just keeping my kid. And I can't really encourage that behavior. So the frustrating part is feeling useless and that people are going to be left to their own devices for a while, for me.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to somebody, and I guess to close out, that might be using COVID-19 and the barriers that presents as perhaps an excuse to either give up or not be proactive, and looks around and says, well, the courts are closed, we're quarantined, I'm not getting responses from people. Like, what would you say to someone like that?
I'd say that that's just a really poor excuse. It's not even a good excuse because I can sit behind this computer for 12 hours at a time and still get as much done as I did when everything else was still going. I get up every day, I put my lipstick and my high heels on just like I'm going to work, and I mean business. I mean business while I'm here, and it's just an excuse. It really is.
I love it. So you still believe that coming out of this, and it sounds like from what you've even described, that the firm is actually improving internally. The team is growing more collaborative. Like an experience like this, in a way, and I don't mean to sound like insensitive for anyone that would listen to this, but in a way, it could be like the catalyst behind driving some of the good change that will make the firm even better. Once we're through this.
This is not going to be a negative experience for me or my team at all. Not at all. We've made so many strides already, and I listened to your blog podcast, not the last one, I missed it, but the one that was before that, which was, I thanked you for it. One of the law firm owners mentioned doing a happy hour, the virtual happy hour. And I'm doing the same things. I have a morning coffee, an afternoon tea time, and we're going to do the virtual happy hour on Friday. And my team, not only by having them develop their own strengths and their own competences, but they're breaking out into sub teams. I told you that pair that's doing the workflow. Once we get off our 15, 20-minute meeting, they break out into their teams. They're doing it. I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting back and they're doing all of it. And it's such a pleasure. I feel so blessed. I really do.
I love it. I'll say, so we've been doing these virtual happy hours. We're doing them on Fridays. We did one last week. We're going to do one again this week. Something that worked really well that I think the team enjoyed a lot is we did almost like a Jeopardy type trivia. Like somebody just created like a deck, and it was just trivia about like people within the company and then the company as a whole. So they submitted questions in advance, and then the teams basically was almost like a competition. So we had fun with it. We had a lot of like nostalgia. There's a lot of like interesting questions. People got to know one another better. And ironically, even though we've never been further apart, I think we're closer together. And I'm not saying that like in a cheesy way. I mean it truthfully. Like the team is, I think, been closer now than we were before this.
I'm so happy to hear that because I feel like that's what's happening to me. And now that you're saying it, I know that's what's happening. And, they're checking in on each other, asking, do you have toilet paper? Do you have this? They're really coming together, and I'm glad to hear that.
Excellent. So Susan, to close out, anything you would leave like law firm owners with, like anything that you believe that someone who's struggling, confused, and in a difficult time, anything that you think that they need to hear?
I think you need to know that it's only going to be a few weeks, and just pretend you're on vacation, and it's a working vacation because you want to get ahead. Trust your team, and they might blow your mind. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome, Susan. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it.